We are continuing to go around the state of Connecticut here as we get ready for the start of college basketball season. And this guy, he's been a familiar face around here for a while. Frequent podcast guest. It's the coach at Sacred Heart, Coach Anthony Latina. So, Coach, thanks so much for hopping on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I know it's excited not only that we get to start the college basketball season too, but you guys are going to be playing UConn to kick off their season. It's your second game, but it's going to be a fun start to the season here.
Well, it's fun until the game is played, but let's hope the game is fun. Yeah, no, it's a great challenge. Listen, what Danny Hurley's done over there is incredible. I mean, to not only win back-to-back national championships, but to do it in a dominating fashion. I mean, they're almost like Tiger Woods last year. Like if you could take UConn or the field, like Tiger in his heyday, most people would have took UConn and they would have won. So, they're at such a high level. I mean, as a lifelong Connecticut resident, or certainly someone who grew up here, and lived here most of my life, I root for them. So I hope they take a half step back for our game, but unfortunately, from the looks of it, it's not going to be much of a step back. So it's a great test for us, great opportunity. We're going to do the best we can to hang in there and see what happens.
Yeah, so let's talk your team, your program a little bit. Obviously, we could talk about the biggest change for your program, and that's a new conference, a new home for you guys this year. How are you feeling heading into year one, going into the MAAC?
It's exciting. Listen, it's a basketball league. It's been known as a basketball league. There's a lot of schools that have great tradition. Schools like Iona and Siena and Manhattan. I mean, these teams have had iconic coaches,
Yeah.
teams, and players. And certainly with our crosstown rival Fairfield and Quinnipiac down the road, kind of renewing some rivalries where we're playing twice a year. But it's a challenge. It's definitely a step up. So we have to be better. And, it's coming at a year where we have 10 new players. So certainly there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of question marks too, depending on, what day you see us. Sometimes I'm like, hey, we're going to be fine. And then sometimes I'm like, oh boy, this could be a rough one. But listen, we got to get, that's part of our job is we got to keep getting better. And we have a mix of old and new and it's going to be a great challenge. It's a great league. It's a basketball league. And we're excited to be part of it, and hopefully we can add to the legacy and tradition that's made this league, kind of a fun league to watch. I think basketball guys in the basketball junkies in the Northeast love the MAAC conference because it's just had so many great coaches through the years. So probably will keep me up late at night, but hopefully we'll have our fair share of wins.
No, definitely excited to see you guys come January. They really kick off these these conference games and have some fun there. As you're talking about going to the MAAC and it being a step up, how do you prepare your team for that step up in competition? I know obviously you mentioned you got a lot of new guys who might not be familiar with that level, but for the guys who have been with your program and are making this move with you, how do you prepare for that?
We're trying to make it very clear, what we did that has brought us success the last few years. It's a similar formula, but we have to be better. We have to be that much better. If we play at the same level that we did last year, we will not get the same results. We will take a step back. So we have to be better. We think we recruit a little more size and length. Hopefully that will help. But it's going to be a learning curve for all of us. I mean, we've played MAAC teams, but just getting comfortable with the travel of it, different arenas or gyms or wherever we're playing, and it's one of those things that until you're going through it, you don't really know how it's going to be. And, it's obviously it's a higher rated league. How much better is it? People ask me, hey, how do you think you're going to be? I said, well, I know how I think we'd be if we were in the Northeast Conference. But what does that mean? What does that translate to in the MAAC? So, we have a monumental task in front of us, but we have a lot of good things. We have a lot of veterans in the program, even though they're new to us. They've been in college basketball. We have a brand new arena, which is fantastic and something that I think people that come and watch the game here will be very pleased and impressed with the level of the experience.
Mhm.
And hopefully, here's what I would say. My hope is that the level of our play will match the level of our arena, and that's a major challenge for us. So it's an exciting time to be here at Sacred Heart with our university thriving, with a new facility, a new league. But it's a challenge. So it's gonna be tough. We're no illusions that it's gonna be easy. There might be some growing pains, but this is, as the old saying, this is a marathon, not a sprint. I mean, think about this. We play a week from today, and our last game might not be until the third week of March, fourth week of March. So it's a long grind. We're going to have some moments where we're going to look really good early and really bad early. You got to be able to learn from those things, not let them get you down, especially, obviously you said our first two games are playing at Temple and at UConn. Well, Temple would win the MAAC conference.
Yeah.
UConn would win every conference in the country. So like we're playing in a super tough league.
Yeah.
And these first two games probably are the two best teams we're going to play all year. So, are we ready for that? I mean, I guess we'll find out. Some days I think, all right, we're going to compete. We're going to definitely compete. But hey, I think we can hang in there. And then other days I'm like, boy, this could be tough. So, we're going to have to be tough and gritty and play good basketball and catch some breaks too. Have to make some shots. When you play a team as good as Temple and as outstanding as UConn, our shot making, you're gonna have to make some jump shots because these teams are so physical and big. Like finishing at the rim is much different against the University of Connecticut than it is against anybody else on our schedule. So, but again, we could play great against UConn and lose, play way better than people think, and it'll have no bearing. I mean, and we can lose by 60 to UConn, 70, and still be a major factor in the MAAC. So we can't get too caught up in that. Like, our goal is not to be better than UConn. We're not going to be better than UConn. That's ridiculous. Our goal is to get better and to be as prepared as we can for the MAAC and be a factor in the MAAC. So if that means we're super competitive against UConn, great. If that means we need to get embarrassed by UConn, so be it. We'll take it as it comes and learn from it.
So I know UConn fans will be listening to this as we get ready for the matchup between your team and the Huskies. So let's dive into your roster a little bit so people can get an idea of what they're going to see out there. You mentioned bringing in a lot of new guys. I mean, you look through the guys you lost, from last year's team, some big time pieces: Joey Riley, Alex Sobel, Nico Gillette, Mike Sixsmith. You go down the line there. You lost a lot. How did you go about rebuilding this team and getting that roster back and getting some names and some guys here are going to help you guys compete in the MAAC?
Well, the first thing is we had some returning guys. Tanner Thomas got hurt 7 games in. We were playing great, and he's a preseason all conference selection. I think he was second or third team in the preseason MAAC. He's a veteran player. We're going to need him to be the best version of himself. We have Anquan Hill, who sat out last year, didn't play for us, but he was a good player. He was the NEC Rookie of the Year at FDU a few years ago, and was a solid player at St. Bonnie's. So he's a guy that we're going to need. And then Bryce Johnson's actually coming back to us. I mean, he was a 10 points, 8 rebound guy for us a few years back. So we have an older front court and Ray Espinal Guzman. So our 4 front court guys, have experience. And I think they're going to keep us competitive. But our guard play is we're counting on some young guys and some new guys. So certainly that's going to be something that guys are going to have to step up. We have Aiden Carpenter back, who's just about a 10-point a game guy for us. After that, our entire perimeter is all new players. Every single one of them hasn't played a minute for us. We have Griffin Baruch, transfer from Hofstra, who's a shot maker. We have Amiri Stewart, Division II transfer, physical player. He needs to be a factor for us. And then we have we have 4 freshmen that all could see some time. In Makai Connor, who's a Connecticut native, played at Notre Dame West Haven, and then went to Putnam Science. Falu Gee, who's at Putnam Science, and Niall Ralph Bear and Taj Bryant. So we're going to be relying on some young players. I mean, they're getting thrown right into the fire. I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss anybody that I think. Oh, then we have junior college player Keyshawn Miller, who certainly could see some time, and who has an older guy. So I think we have good depth. We're still trying to figure out what the rotation looks like, because we do have a lot of guys are even. But our guard play is certainly an unknown, certainly for our opponent, but even for us to a certain degree. And they're going to have to, the freshmen are going to have to grow up quick, and our veterans are going to have to make the next step. We will rely on our front court a lot for production, whether it's points in the paint,
Mm.
whether it's offensive and defensive rebounding and some physicality. But it's hard, in college basketball to be very good. You need good guard play, and as you said, we've lost a lot of good guards from last year. We lost Joey Riley, all-league player. Brendan McGuire, when he was healthy, was terrific. Raheem Solomon, very good player. Mike Sixsmith did some good things. So, and then we lost Sobel, who was the best player in the Northeast
Yeah.
Conference. But our front court is a little older, a little more comfortable with them. But our backcourt guys, we're going to need some guys to emerge. And the good news is they're all going to get a little bit of an opportunity, and hopefully someone can fill that void or that need.
Looking to add some local flavor to your lineup? Martin Rosals is the MVP of your game day spread and a slam dunk for any occasion. Proudly made in hard-hitting New Britain, their famous kielbasa and hot dogs have been a fan favorite for over 96 years. You can find their products in grocery stores across the state or have them delivered directly to your home court, coast to coast, via martinrosal.com. Take your taste buds to the championship and go support a UConn fan-owned business. As you mentioned, all these young guys, along with the returners, but especially the younger guys, when you throw them into the fire, as you say, you've got Temple, you've got UConn. I mean, the rest of your non-conference is a tough non-conference schedule too. I mean, you got Dartmouth, New Hampshire, Brown, Central. As you're going through that, how important is the non-conference for getting these guys, kind of used to playing at the college level as you're, then getting ready to enter MAAC play come later in the winter?
Yeah, no question. Well, I think at this level of college basketball, the non-conference, first of all, you're playing some elite teams.
Yeah.
So you're getting a feel for that, but you're trying to get ready for conference play. And a lot of times you're taking a lot of L's. So I think a lot of it is improving, getting better, and having your team mentally and psychologically being able to handle some losses against some very good teams
Mhm.
while still staying positive and understanding we're heading in the right direction, if we are heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
So I think there's I have a good friend of mine who's the coach at Mercyhurst, who's just going into Northeast
Yeah.
Conference, great coach. And, they won 20 games, I don't know, 7 of the last 8 years. And I said, the biggest adjustment when we're going from Division II to Division I, especially at the low major, mid-major level, is everyone in the non-conference you're playing, I mean, a lot of them are significantly bigger schools than you. You're going to if you can. I think they have 15 non-conference games. If you can get through non-conference, and we have 11 non-conference games. If you can get close to 500,
That's a bit, yeah.
that's a win. That's a
Yeah.
win. So if UConn limps into Big East play at 500, people are going nuts, right? It's a different animal, right? Because
Yeah.
there are Big East plays where it gets really, really hard. They have a couple. They have some forgiving games. For UConn,
Yeah.
where it's kind of the opposite for us. Like, we're getting beat up, so we have to psychologically be able to handle that and be able to keep getting better without getting too discouraged, and as a coaching staff, without getting too down on your players. Like, let's be honest here. University of Connecticut is going to make some very good teams and players look awful.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're not good MAAC players. So you have to kind of keep that perspective too.
Mhm.
And I think that's a tricky thing. And I've been doing this for a while, but it's still like there's times where you're 5, 6, 7 games in, and you do play these games. You're like, boy, we're awful. And I'm like, well, are we awful, or are we just playing teams that are really, really good? So that's a tricky part of this that I think, unless you've coached, even the most, kind of basketball junkie fans don't completely understand that. Winning 20 games at the low major level, I always say it's like winning 25 to 27 at the high major, because there's so many built-in losses.
Yeah.
There's no built-in wins. I mean, unless you're playing a non-division one,
Right.
every game is a 50-50 at best. Every game, is coming down. If you're lucky, it's coming down with 5 minutes to go, because the game could be over in the other direction. So I think you got to figure out a way to win some close games, and you got to stay positive, because you're going to take your lumps. Like 20-10 when we play 30. If we go 20-11,
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost a historic year for a Division I program in the Northeast Conference or the MAAC at this in today's college basketball. Well, that's still 11 losses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some of these guys play high school basketball, they lose 11 games in 4 years. And that's for us. So I think that part of it too, And then the other part that our new guys and our young guys deal with is like, you know, the fluctuation of minutes. There's certain guys
Mhm.
like you're the best player in high school. You're playing the whole game, every game, unless it's a blowout and then you're coming out of the game
Yeah.
because you're. But now, there's some games where a kid will play 8 to 10 minutes, or even say 15 minutes, and the next game will play six.
Yeah.
And so mentally, it's really a toll on these guys. So I think a lot of that and kind of walking these young guys through that, and the new guys too, because the new guys are coming to a new situation. So
Yeah.
it's college basketball early it's crazier now than ever because there's so many new players that you're meshing together. So
Right.
you
Yeah. You're
some
just
good
trying to
teams.
see what you got.
Yeah, you're going to see something. I mean, like Kansas had some injuries, but when Kansas gets blown out,
Yeah.
or Arizona State gets blown out by I think it was like 60 yesterday. Now, granted,
Yeah.
it was Duke. I guarantee you, watch Arizona State in January, they're going to be a much different team than they
Right.
are. It's got a ton of new guys. Now it was Duke, and you're playing Duke and Cameron, and that's going to happen. But like, you're going to see some head scratching scores. You're like, boy, these guys must stink. And like, well, no, like they got 8 new guys, or if you're missing a couple of guys, you're going to see a lot more of that.
Hmm.
These head scratching scores, and I'll use Arizona State as perfect. Arizona State's going to be fine.
Yeah.
They got some dudes. It's just they played a team that was hot in a tough environment, and they're not connected yet. But they'll probably get there. So they might go to Kansas in the Big 12 and beat Kansas at Kansas, and Kansas by the end of the year might be better than Duke. So
Yeah.
it's a long these psychological games. You can't get caught up in the roller coaster of this level. You can't get caught up in the roller coaster of Twitter because people are going to be crushing you, uh, better for worse, and people will probably be praising you when you don't maybe deserve as much praise as you're getting as well. Like
Yeah.
both are a real detriment if you give it too much energy, too much weight. Um, but listen, we're all humans. You get your brains beaten a few times
Tough.
especially games you think you can be competitive in, and you really have to. There's a mental toughness to coaching that I think most people don't realize.
Yeah.
And it's all relative. Like obviously you have a big UConn audience as you should what they're doing, but his pressure is a little different. Like he loses the game and the sky's falling, because the bar is so high. So his pressure is a little different. Ours is, hey, you're going to get your brains beaten a few times. How are you going to respond to that when people are crushing you? So
Hmm.
it's all relative and it's all different. But Division One basketball, I mean, is it's such a different animal with the turnover. And
For sure.
if you could keep, one of the things that UConn has done a good job is they've been able to keep at least a little core, whether it was
Mhm.
Klingon and Tristan Newton and whatever, and then they have little pieces. So, and he was able to do that a little bit as well this year.
Yeah.
But it gets tricky. It gets tricky because he's counting on some really new players, but they're really good,
Yeah.
and you don't know how they're going to respond yet. So it's I will say coaching, I do believe this has gotten much harder in the last 20 years, much more difficult
Definitely.
from a psychological standpoint because the ups and downs are more inevitable than ever
Hmm.
because of the roster turnover is so great. The
Yeah.
days of having like, hey, you got a 3-time all league guy coming back. That doesn't exist at this level.
Yeah.
If I have a first team all league guy who's a sophomore or junior,
He's
I
playing.
ain't getting it as a junior or senior.
Yeah.
They're up at a higher level. So that comfort level that you've had with guys, whether it was, Nico Gillette was here for 4 years, like those days are over.
Yeah.
So they're getting used to the coaches just as much as we're getting used to them. And again, I don't see that for sympathy. Like, hey, listen, if I 1,000 people would want this job if I left, so it's no one's feeling bad for
Yeah.
me and certainly not for Danny Hurley or for, Tom Pecoro or Chris Casey or any of the coaches, Pat Sellers,
Yeah.
you know, but it's become, it is a grind more than ever before. But listen, that's the challenge. It's the beauty of it. And if you could overcome it, you can do some special things.
Well, I want to talk about one of the challenges as we're thinking about your opening week there. I mean, obviously you open at Temple on a Monday, you're playing UConn on Wednesday. So what, you got a day in between, you're doing that travel. How do you even go about prepping for UConn when you've got a game Monday with that, day in between and you're traveling and doing all that?
Yeah. Well, I think when you play a team, at UConn's level, I think you go into the game, you don't try to get cute and say like, oh, well, we're going to play, the ball screens way different. I think you got to try to be good at what you do,
Hmm.
do the best your ability. Not that you're not make, of course you have to make some adjustments.
Right.
Like you can't just, oh, well, we're going to do this, like, something that could work again, we're going to just drive it down their throat. Like, okay, that might not work. So we'll have to make some adjustments, but I don't think you can get too crazy. If you try to do things that you've never done to
Yeah.
try to win the UConn game, I don't know. That makes no sense. We got to try to get better at some things. Will we play maybe a little slower because it can get way out of hand early? Maybe, but for the most part, in terms of preparation, you got to know their personnel. Obviously, know who can shoot, know who's a
Hmm.
driver, things of that nature. They run 8 million sets, so you're not going to go through all those sets, even if you have a week to prepare.
Yeah.
You have to be able to guard some principles. And I mean, because one of the things that they do, their offense is extremely sophisticated. And I don't like using that word because we're at the end of the day we are playing basketball,
Yeah.
but it is in terms as far as offense goes, there's a lot of sets, there's a lot
Yep.
of wrinkles. There's no way that you're going to be able to guard like, hey, what are we going to go for 20 plays in a walkthrough? I mean that doesn't, so you have to go over principles and hey, we're going to have to guard certain people certain ways and you know, and if you're fortunate enough to make a miss, then you got to go. Here's how you stay in the game against people. You don't give them the ball and give them dunks and breakaway, and you
Yeah.
can't just let them play volleyball off the backboard. You got to be able to defensive rebound, and you got to not give them runouts to have any chance
Hmm.
to even hang in the game. So those will be more of our focuses. Like, hey, we got to take care of the ball, and we got to limit them to one shot. If we're lucky enough, fortunate enough to have them miss their first, they can't get a second, third, and fourth. So those are some of the things that you work on against a team of this caliber. And again, when I mean this caliber, we're talking about what are they, third in the country right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're not a high major program. They're in elites. You know, you can make an argument that UConn is the best. Not an argument. They're the best program in the country right now. 10, 15 years ago, oh, Duke, Kansas, Kentucky. I mean, it's Connecticut. It's Connecticut. So this one, and it's in our backyard. So that's what we're going to really focus on. The preparation thing is um, it's a different 1 day prep is different anyway with any opponent, but certainly
Yeah.
them it's a little different. And then we have Dartmouth 2 days later. So um, it's 3 games and I think it's what 5 days or 6 days. It's a
Yeah.
lot. Uh,
Yeah.
but this is what we needed to do. This was what was best for our program for a variety of reasons, and so we got to try to step up to the challenge and try to put our best foot forward.
Yeah. Then you give the guys a week off, so they'll get their legs back. So
Well, we'll need some
you
practice. We'll
yeah.
we'll need to be fixing some things. Egos might be one of them, but certainly like how what we're doing and what
Yeah.
worked, didn't work, and because you still got to try to get good at what you want to be good at. I
Yeah.
think that's what we want to try to do this time of year is what do we want to be about? What do we want to be good at? Did we do those things? Were we in the ballpark doing those type of things?
Mhm.
Whether it's shot selection or are we trying to be a team that, runs? Are we running with good pace and good decision making or whatever the case may be? So that those are the things that we're trying to really going to focus on, and of course we're going to try to stay in the game as long as possible.
Yeah.
That's the only advantage that you have against a high major team is the longer it stays close, the more the pressure is on them.
Yeah.
So when
Exactly.
you hang in there after 4 minutes, all right, the first media, are we still at the second media? Are we still in at the third media? All right, are we still in it? Like, are we still in that? Now it's just like, okay, let's keep hanging in there. Let's keep hanging in there and try to do the best we can in that regard.
Yeah. I'll wrap with this one for you. I mean, you talked a little bit about the new gym. Tell us what we can look forward to it. I know we've got a lot of Connecticut people here listening. Hopefully they come down, check it out. We're gonna have now even more interstate matchups there now with the new conference in the MAAC. So you want to see some Connecticut basketball action? You're gonna get to go see it in a brand new building there.
Well, here's what I would say. The fan experience is going to be great. The technology and the visual and audio element of it is at the highest level. I think our fan experience, fan engagement is going to be great. There's not a bad seat. It's an intimate place. You're right on top of the court. And like you said, our opener is November 21st against Central Connecticut, a long time rival from back in
Yeah.
the 80s and 90s, Division Two in the 80s, the Division Two days. And then we were NEC rivals. And and Pat's doing a wonderful job there. So it's a great level of play in a great venue on a great campus. And, it's a Thursday game. Go out to dinner. There's a million wonderful places to eat
Yeah.
in Fairfield County. Go grab early dinner. We play 8 o'clock tip off against Central Connecticut. I think you'll see it's a first class venue. You'll have a first class experience, and I think you'll see some pretty good level of basketball. And you're right on top of the court, so there's no bad seat. It's a cheap ticket, and I think if you're a basketball fan, you'll enjoy the experience, and hopefully the level of play is what I think it should be for us. And I know Central Connecticut's going to be very ready to play. So it's our first game in this building is against a Connecticut opponent, and that's exciting. And I think Central will bring some people. They're coming off a great year, and hopefully we can give them some exciting basketball.
No, well, I for one am certainly excited to get down there and check out a game this year. So, Coach, I really appreciate you taking some time right here before the season to hop on. I know it's a busy time of year, so thanks so much, and best of luck to you and your team this season. I know we'll have you back on at some point, so we'll talk soon.
Hopefully we're talking before the conference tournament, and we're
Yeah,
we're trucking along. That's the hope. Keep our
yeah,
fingers crossed, stay healthy, and see what happens.
awesome. Thanks again, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good day.